Ugh.
Oh my god, dude, it did not let up.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So today is a big day because I think we're gonna try and start this thing. So it's getting pretty close on this LS swap, as you can see in here, but there is quite a bit left to do. And I got some friends coming over today to try and just bust it out. We're gonna try and get it done. It's a long ways from driving still, but I just want to hear it run. So I guess first thing we need to do is make a list. All right, so here is the list. As you can see, it's not very long. So let's see, we got mount and wire starter. I've got the starter right there, just need to wire that up. Mount clutch master and slave, I have that, should be 4 bolts. Install the oil pressure gauge. So that's not technically required to start it, but I don't want to start it without it because I want to know if it doesn't have oil pressure so we can, address that as soon as possible. We need to mount the coil packs. I have one of those on already. Install the wiring harness, that's down here. We need to RTV the oil pan. So this is just the stock oil pan right now, and it's not the oil pan that I'm going to run, but it's good enough to hear it start and drive it on the block or so. I'm going to buy a baffled oil pan when we actually go wheeling, but they're really expensive. It's currently not in the budget, but I want to hear it run, so we're just going to run the stock one for right now. But it's just like lightly screwed in. It's not actually tight, so I need to RTV the oil pan on. We need to flash the computer, so that's a big one. If you don't know, these LSs, all of them, they come with what's called Vehicle Anti-Theft System, or VATS for short, which basically means that if the computer doesn't pick up the ignition or like the key from the factory car, so this is from a Tahoe, so if it doesn't pick up the ignition from that specific Tahoe, it won't start. It thinks you're trying to steal it. So obviously everybody encounters that, and you have to go in and flash the computer. There's a million different ways to do that. Most people use HB tuners, but that costs money, or they'll send the computer off somewhere to have it flashed, and that costs money and takes time too. There's also ways to do it yourself with like a OBD2 to USB plug, and you plug it into your computer, and you can use like PCM hammer and stuff like that. That was the route I was gonna go. But as I was asking my friends around for that cable, an OBD2 to USB, because I don't have one, one of my buddies said he's got some stuff to do it. So he's going to come over today and flash it, which should be a quick thing. We need to build an exhaust. So right now we just have open headers. I have all of the tubing right there to build this. And it should be fairly straightforward because all the links on the outside of the frame. So it should pretty much just be the collector for the Y pipe, and then it's just straight out the back to a muffler. Again, I don't technically need to do that to hear it start, but I'd like to hear it start like with the exhaust, for the first time. And then add oil. That's it. We got oil right there. And then I think we can start this thing.
I'm just wondering, this doesn't look like it lined up with anything.
Nice. That's fine. Just guide me over that pickup tube.
Yep, keep coming up.
Well, we got the harness installed. Everything's all plugged in. Spark plugs, coil packs. As you can see, it's kind of a rat's nest. I'm gonna go through once we're all done and this thing runs and like snip off any little connector that we're not using, and then I'll pull the whole harness back off and clean this all up. So this is all just temporary. Josh is filling it with oil, so that's exciting. Getting close. Only thing now is I can't find my OBD2 port, which I need in order to delete the vats. I would have expected it to just be like right here, but it turns out it's not, at least not to my knowledge. Not sure what I'm missing there. I guess we'll keep you posted.
1 week later.
Okay, so it's the next weekend, and lots has changed since the last little clip. We basically ran into some problems. The main thing is we were trying to hook up just the fuel pump and have it turn on when I turn the key on, which I thought I could do without having the computer flashed, you know. But the problem is we kept blowing a fuse in the fuse box here. And I believe that is because this fuse box is from a junkyard out of an 03, and my engine and harness and computer are all out of an 02, and they are not compatible. I thought I could make it work. All the plugs, like on the back, they all plug in just fine, but something on the inside's different, and it doesn't work. So I did end up going and picking up the correct fuse box, and for you guys at home, you can see the difference here. Basically, the 03 and up have the square looking fuses, and no fuses between those two relays, where mine has, you know, the normal mega fuses, and you can see some minis in between those two relays. So this is 02 and older, that's 03 and up. And they are different, even though the plugs on the back are identical. So I'm thinking that's gonna at least get our fuel pump turned on and stuff. As for the computer and the OBD2 port, so I did some more research. Come to find out, the OBD2 port is on the chassis harness and it plugs into one of the plugs. So what everybody does is they just buy an OBD2 plug and they wire it in directly to basically right out of the computer harness here. So I have that, which will be nice for reading codes and stuff, but we don't need that to get it started because I went and had my computer flashed by a guy locally. So he went ahead and removed the vats. He deleted the rear O2s. He deleted all of the automatic trans stuff because this computer thought it was supposed to be with a 4L60. We're obviously a manual. And he raised the rev limiter a little bit for the manual and a bunch of other things. So this should be pretty much ready to go. I think all I really need to do is remove that fuse box and replace it with that fuse box, plug this guy in, and it would start. But I'm going to resist that temptation because I want to build an exhaust first before we start it. So that's what we're going to do next. All right, so my camera died, so I didn't film the first little bit of the exhaust build here, but you can see it. V-bands from there down under the oil pan, and then if I come over here, there's wires and stuff in the way, but you can see it comes down off that header to another V-band, does a nice little zigzag, and it all ties together. I tried really hard to like keep the flow of the exhaust all like going the same way, so this wasn't just like a hard 90 right here. I wanted it to kind of curve in, which made lining all that up a little tricky, but yeah. And then this runs down. I don't know if you can see that. So the next thing is I got a resonator here. This should help with the raspiness a little bit. I'm just gonna use this for the straight section here. And then we gotta go up and over the lower link mount. And I have to put an O2 bung right here. I've got one on the other side that came with the headers, but I need one for this side too. So I've got this little piece out of my old exhaust. I don't really have room to put the whole piece in there, so I'm gonna try and just cut the O2 bung out, stick it on there, and then we're pretty much done. All right, so here's the Y pipe. You can see I've got the hole cut for this piece, which is pretty complicated little S-bend there. And this guy lands on here nicely. You can see all of that. I'm actually pretty stoked with that. Basically the way I did that was I just, I had this piece bolted up to the header, I had this piece solid, and I slowly ground this corner joint until it slid on there. And then once I had it on there, I just traced it out with a Sharpie, pull it off, grind it out, easy as that. So yeah, I think I have it as wide as I want it. So I'm not gonna weld this on the bench though. I'm gonna put it all back in, bolt up both the V-bands, and then I'll tack this. I wanted to do this joint last just to make sure that both the V-bands line up as good as possible. And then we should be good. The rest of it's pretty much a straight shot out, so it should be pretty quick and easy from there. And then we can, I think, start this thing. Door. That'll do. I like that. There's lots of room for the master or the slave and the starter. I can still get to everything, but it's got a nice little curve into it. There's room on the oil pan, because this technically, if you remember, isn't the oil pan that I'm running. I'm running a different oil pan, so me doing this exhaust right now is kind of risky because it might not fit around the other oil pan, so I'm just trying to give it some room. It should be relatively the same dimensions, but yeah, sweet, good deal. All right, well, I think we're close. O2s are in, fuel pump kicks on, we turn the key. We switched over to the O2 fuse block. The exhaust isn't done, but it's welded at least to like the back or the seats. There's no muffler, so it's gonna be kind of loud and obnoxious, but should idle. Yeah, I mean, I think we're ready.
Fix the idle air control valve wiring.
Yeah, we did notice last minute that the IAC had a broken wire right here going in, so there's a ghetto butt connector on there. I'll go to a junkyard and snip off a pigtail further back so this isn't so janky, but for now, I guess let's get a screwdriver and jump it, because the starter solenoid isn't hooked up to the key yet, but that doesn't matter.
In the run position, yeah.
All right, key is on. Ethan's keeping an eye on the oil pressure and ready to turn it off. I'm gonna crawl under here.
What would you consider good oil pressure?
Good would be like 40 or 50. I'll be happy.
All right, so if it doesn't reach 40, I should kill it.
I mean, if it's 15 or I don't know, whatever. I don't know, man.
Right. As long as it breaks 20, I'll
if it breaks 20, we'll let it run. But yeah, it probably won't build pressure for a few seconds.
All right.
If it starts, we might have lots of problems. Who knows? Yeah. I don't know if I can even get up in here now with the exhaust. Okay, here goes nothing. Whoa. Why is the starter? All right, round 2. Key still on?
Yep.
Ugh. Huh. Sounded like maybe no spark.
Or no fuel.
Or no fuel. Let's try giving it more fuel. All right, so pretty funny. We were chasing our tail, found out there's no fuel to the rails. And then Ethan and I are sitting here thinking about the last time this thing even drove was that snow trip, and we ran out of gas putting it back on the trailer. So there was no fuel in the fuel tank, which is pretty silly. So we put 5 gallons in it, cranked it until I could hear it coming into the rail now. So I believe we have fuel. So I guess we're gonna try it again.
Alright.
Yeah, maybe give her one more crank just so there's fresh pressure. Okay, here goes.
You are.
Oh, it's gonna run.
Yeah, it is. Just gotta get all that air out of the rail.
Uh-huh. Maybe crank it one more time. Hit the Allen wrenches. What's our oil pressure? Like 45? Yeah. Hell yeah, dude. Give me a high five. Yeah. Fucking LS swap, boy. Oh, she died. But it runs.
At least you know the tune's good.
Yeah. You hear that, Joey? Woohoo! That's exciting. Once it had fuel, it started right up. Yeah, I'm kind of wondering that too. And this,
There's 2 bare wires here.
and this throttle body has an adjuster on here, which I noticed, you know, might need a little tinkering with, but
Yeah.
okay. Well, we'll keep tinkering with it. Definitely gonna start it again. America! Round 2. Kind of hard to get the screwdriver in here. Huh. I just barely opened the throttle and it started doing that.
Doing what?
Did you hear it?
Uh-uh.
It was just skyrocketing in revs.
Oh. I mean, I heard it go up in revs, but I didn't realize.
I like just barely opened this.
How long were you doing this?
Like 2 seconds.
Oh, okay. Because I was looking down at the oil pressure because I was watching it rise when the RPMs were going up. It got up to like 60 pounds.
Cool. So, I mean, that's the important part. I'm not sure why he wants to idle so bad. I mean, it might have a lot to do with this. I don't know.
Yeah.
This being janky. All right, guys. So I think I'm gonna call it there. It's not perfect. It like I said, the idle's a little wrong. But it starts pretty. I mean, right away. And it sounds good. There's no weird sounds. There's no knocks or squeaks or squeals. The exhaust isn't totally finished, but that's an easy thing from here. And I think I at least have a plan on where to start with the idle issues. Like we were saying, you know, the IAC wires are all kind of cracked and broken and janky. We tried switching back to the old IAC that came with the motor, but it doesn't fit in the throttle body super good. And then I also know that the map sensor on the back of this intake isn't totally right. Basically, I ran a map sensor for the Tahoe, but this intake, when I read the instructions, it calls for like a specific part number, and this one doesn't quite fit. It's not right. I kind of haggardly like O-ringed it in there, and it's not right. So there could be a total leak from the map sensor, and that could be all the problem. But I mean, it starts and it runs and it works. So I'm pretty stoked about that. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. This is a big moment for me. See you in the next one.